Welcome. My name is Theon Freeman. I'm the head of community at Minerva, and I am glad to have you all here at the second Success Corner. And so today we have Chad Horenfeldt and we have Peter Crysdale. And so firstly, head of community at Minerva, and Minerva lets you create personalized interactive guides for your clients and embed them in the flow of work. Now, particularly as we focus on customer success, our goal is to help improve client communication. And we recognize there aren't enough opportunities to meet and learn from each other. And so that's why we actually created this event. I'm so glad to have you here. And I hope that you get a lot of value out of today's event. And I will be following up. And so love to hear more. And now again, we have Chad Horenfeldt. Chad is Director of Customer Success at Kustomer and has 15 plus years of experience building and developing customer success teams that has resulted in exemplary customer satisfaction, retention, and growth rates. And our moderator will be Peter Crysdale. And so he is one of the founding team members at Minerva. And so Peter, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Theon. And by the way, big shout out to Theon. Theon has put a lot of time and effort into making sure that these events are a big success for everyone. So thank you, Theon. This is not our second annual event. It is our second event of the year, which we feel pretty good about. And we try to do these events every 2 weeks right now. This specific event is for the East Coast time zone, but next week we're going to start a West Coast time zone event. So we'll alternate between East Coast and West Coast time zones. The folks who are here from Europe, I'm assuming this is probably a better time for you than our West Coast time. And so I think keep an eye out for bi-weekly events, one event every 2 weeks. Chad, thank you so much for taking the time. Very excited. I'm assuming that you have kids or you really like to draw.
Yeah, well, a little both, but I have 3 kids. So, it gives me a lot of pleasure actually when I get to see kind of those pictures behind me. And it's actually a secret weapon in customer success because I get on a lot of calls and sometimes there's not very happy customers. And it's really hard to yell at someone when you see these rainbows behind you. So there's a tip for you. Put rainbows behind you.
Yeah. Well, there's a tip and it runs pretty deep actually, because it humanizes you, right? In such a powerful way. You can't help but see Chad as a more complete person when you have to recognize that he's got a family behind it. Yeah, I love that. You had mentioned something to me that I think is a great place to start, which is that your theme for this year has been framing the customer success team as strategic advisors, both to your clients and to the company itself. And would love to just start by hearing more from you as to that thinking and how you hope that will play out. And maybe now that we're 3 weeks into the new year, how that is playing out so far.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for inviting me here, and thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, there's a lot of big things happening in our company. We're in this huge growth mode, and we've actually hired a number of people, and they're in various processes. Most of them are still in onboarding, getting up to speed. And one of the things that I'm really trying to focus on, and culture is such a huge part of customer success and our team, and is really kind of the core of, I'd say, any team. And for us, this idea of being a strategic advisor, it's somewhat aspirational, but also something that, we've hired really talented people, and this is what we expect of that particular team and what we do on a daily basis. And so by being a strategic advisor, it's both in terms of what you do, it's also in terms of how you conduct yourself, it's also how people see you internally. And so as an example, one of the things that we want our team to do and something we measure them on, and this is, and just taking a step back, the customer success team here at Kustomer with a K. So Kustomer is a CRM support platform. And so, think of, many companies like Abercrombie & Finch or Glovo over in Europe, where their own customers have issues. They use our platform as their support platform, as well as their CRM platform to collect all of that data. And so our customer success team is 20 people. We focus on renewing our customers, making sure they're getting value. And that team consists of customer success managers, as well as technical account managers. We also have a professional services team, which is outside of the customer success team, and we also have a support team. And those three teams, the customer success, professional services, support, they all roll up into customer experience. And so specifically for customer success, with our CSMs and with our TAMs, some of the things that I really want our team to focus on is having these what we call strategic engagements with our customers. So a strategic engagement could be a business review. So we don't call them quarterly business reviews. We actually call them customer with a K business reviews. So everything has this customer acronym. So we do customer business reviews. We do customer shadow sessions. So this is where we get on calls with our customers through Zoom now, and we actually watch how they use our platform. And that way we can have a sense of how are they using it? What are areas that they can optimize? Because ideally, the end customer who's using our platform are support agents. And we want to see where they're clicking and in making sure that they're using and maximizing our tool. We do something called a customer business outcome review. So this is usually early on in the relationship after they've completed their onboarding, or even during their onboarding. We'll go and we'll make sure that we understand what their business objectives are. We'll confirm what the sales team has told us. And that way we can get ourselves off on the best relationship possible, where we're not focusing on necessarily their issues. It's really what are they trying to achieve? And we try and establish ourselves as those strategic advisors. And then internally, because we're growing so fast, last year we had a number of promotions. We had actually people moving to different teams. I had one person move to our operations team. I had one person move to our solutions consulting team. But there was a little bit of I would say, ambiguity in terms of why someone is getting promoted and why some person hasn't got promoted yet. And so to codify that, we've created this, what we call a CS skills and expectation matrix. And so we're finalizing that. And the whole idea of that is to define what are those expected skills and behaviors that we want the person to perform at different levels. And that is all geared around how do we become more of that strategic advisor. Obviously, there's different components to it, but it's creating those standards of excellence that you want and you want to see and codifying that more. And I'd say the last part is internally, and this is, I would say, more to our TAM team, is that we all want to be considered these subject matter experts. So we're inserting different people from our team on the product and engineering squads. And so we want them, we want our team to help the product team prioritize what are those different features that they should work on. I mean, we've already submitted the feedback from customers, but as we know, on the product engineering side, they'll have a bunch of tasks and they still need to prioritize what those tasks are within that bigger project. And by inserting ourselves in those squads, we can give them feedback and say, listen, I know this thing seems really hard, but you should really focus on that first because it will make those other things easier and will have a bigger impact. And then lastly, as part of this, we want to contribute more to stories, and these are customer stories, because the more stories we can compile, not only will it help the customer success and TAMs in terms of, when they're speaking to customers, they can pull out these other stories and say, well, this customer has done X, Y, and Z. Then, internally, we can take those stories, provide them to marketing, provide them to sales, they can turn into case studies. So all of these things together, our hope is that we transform ourselves more from reactive to more to that proactive, and that, we really, establish ourselves more and have a bit more swagger around the organization where people see us in a different light. And a lot of these things we're doing already, but it's more of just taking those things and communicating them better. So I know it's a long answer, but it's something that's so central to what we're really focusing on for this year.
I certainly appreciate the way that you broke it down. And I think that there's many different interesting facets to what you just said. One of the things that I'm most interested in, because it seems to come up a lot, is your relationship to internally to the people who are actually building the product. I assume you call them the product team, but some combination of people that are the actual software engineers that are changing the user experience of your software product. When you think of yourself as strategic advisors, and when you're really trying to plant that flag, what is the relationship to that product team internally?
Yeah, I think that I think we have a really good relationship with our product team. obviously I'd like to ask the product team, but I think we do. I think that, one of the things that is really important for me, we have a product it's a very massive product, and it's not an add-on. This is a product that is a platform. It is the core system for our customers from a customer experience perspective. So with that, there's complexity there. It's just this massive thing. And I think that one of the things that I did when I joined, and I joined Kustomer, I was telling Theon, it was BC, so before COVID. So I started in December 2019. And I was very lucky because I actually got to meet some of these people in person because, we were in the office for a few months and, before everything was locked down and now we're all at home. But I had a chance to go and establish some of those relationships. But I think one of the key things that I did, and I think this is important for any CS leader, is really to understand the product. Because, depending on the culture of your organization, our founders were, they're engineers, like they're more on the technical side. And so that, permeates into our company and permeates into our product or what we actually do. And it was really important to learn and understand the product. And that way, when you're coming to the product team and you're saying, hey, like these are the challenges that we're having, you got a bit of street cred there yourself because, you understand the product. And I think the other part of it there is that, you have that, but you also have to put your company hat on. And it's difficult at times at customer success because you got that passion, you're thinking about your customers and what they want. And that's obviously really important. But you also have to think about what are the pressures that that product team is under, because you're not their only internal customer. They also have the sales team. They also have the company strategy. And so it's really important to have that empathy, as well as to build frameworks and processes. So, I think I was reflecting back last year in 2021, and for us as a customer success team, it was super successful working with the product team because we came up with a process that we call a feature commit process. And so what that means is, as a customer success team, we created a top 10 feature list. And these are the things that we feel like we must have for specific customers to make sure that we're securing those renewals. And then the feature commit process is we would submit those items and we would get commitment from the product to actually build those items within a certain time frame. And we were very choosy on what we submitted for that feature commit, and we were able to get those features done, and we were able to secure some key renewals that way. So I think you just have to come with empathy. You have to build those processes, and you have to adjust. And we also have a biweekly leadership meeting between the CX leaders, product leaders, and engineering leaders, and we make sure that we review those processes and we look for gaps to fill that. So I'm very happy with that relationship we have with the product team.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And that last note, I think, was really important. Just that bi-weekly meeting is about reviewing the process. It's not about actually talking about the content going through the process, because that should already be handled on its own. But you're actually meeting to make sure that the process is working and talk about process itself. So one of the things that you mentioned just there was hiring being a part of the customer pre-COVID. Now that we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of a big shift in how we think about work, and most people, if not everyone in your organization, working from home, how has hiring evolved for you in the last 2 years? And I believe you've also gone through an acquisition as a company in that period. I'm sure that's had an impact too, but also looking into the new year, what have you learned from hiring? What are you going to apply going forward?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that one of the things we've learned is that we obviously don't need to meet people in person to hire them. And it's obvious that's an obvious one. But I think that the thing that hasn't changed is culture, and creating a culture that is going to permeate through everything that you do. And, one of the things that, even before COVID, when I got a better understanding of our product, I got a better understanding of what the culture of the company is, then, and what our customers want, that helped me determine what is the right hiring profile, who are the people that we should be looking for. But beyond that, in terms of the culture that I wanted to create, I was very, I'd say, determined and, like set in a specific way that I wanted to approach things. And by that, what I mean is I want a culture that, we have this psychological safe environment where people can share things, people can express how they're feeling, people can, rely on each other. And I think that one of the proudest things of anything that I've done at Kustomer is that the team as a whole, they're very passionate about their customers. They're passionate about the company, but the thing that they're passionate about the most of is their team and helping each other. And that's something that in this COVID world, we're all remote, the fact that they're doing that and they're there for each other, I'm super, super proud of. And to do that, we've put in certain rituals to help with that. So, as an example, one of the things that we do is we have a Monday morning, what I call a Zoom up, where we just jump on a Zoom just like this. We share, what's going on this week. I share with them things that I'm aware of in the organization, and we just hash out challenges that people have. So that's just kind of a first way that we get together. And in fact, as we go along in the week, one of the things that we do is we have a biweekly CSM, like full meeting. The individual teams have their own meetings. And then one of the things that we do to wrap up at the end of the week is we have like a automated thing through Slack. We use Geekbot, where it asks a series of questions. And, those questions like, what are you proud of? It asks just a random question about something, I don't know, what's your favorite breakfast cereal? What challenges have you had? And, and then what shout outs that you want to give to other people and other organizations. And the challenges, we actually take some of those challenges and we put them into the Zoom up on Monday so that we expound on them. But, in the actual meetings when we meet with each other, we do some of these very informal questions as well. So for example, yesterday, we have these new team members that we're still onboarding. We just ask a simple question, cats or dogs? And we just answer that question, and people, like, their dogs are with them. I'm actually dog sitting, so you might hear a dog, on this call. So it's great because we get to learn more about those individuals, and they get to learn more about each other. And we found out that, previously, like 6 months ago, we had more, I'd say, dog friends than cat friends. But now, I called it the revenge of the cats. Like, we've got more on the cat side coming through. So, and then, and then the other thing is, like, on a monthly basis, we do virtual events. Sometimes we've done in person when things were a bit better. But last night we did a virtual event, and we did a TV trivia night. And so, we look for, I've done some of them myself, or I've organized them, but, as a leader, and at times, just too many things going on. So I usually look for other organizations to help me with. I used teambuilding.com. That was one. I've used Airbnb experiences. And the whole idea is just, it's just having fun. It's doing things where it's just fun. People are together, having a good time. And then, all those other stresses hopefully will go away during that time, and we can just be there and have an amazing experience. So those are the things that are super important. The onboarding experience is really important, how we onboard people onto the team. We make sure that we create a really robust onboarding program. So we use WorkRamp as a way of, and before we had WorkRamp, which is like like a learning management system, we had everything in Excel. It was just very laid out. Here's, for 6 weeks, here are the different product areas that you need to learn, because it's a very, complex product with a lot of different parts to it. So we wanted to break that out. We also set goals on different people you need to meet. We set things like you need to shadow certain calls. And not only do you shadow the calls, we actually have certain actions that we want people to do. We want them to do research beforehand. Who's the customer? Who are their end customers? What's being discussed on the call? What are the things you learn from the call? And to take those notes and send them to their manager. We actually get them to record them now in our customer success platform, but being very prescriptive on what we want that person to do, and also who we want that person to meet. And of course, our own company has a really great program through the people team, but we augment that by adding mentors and just creating different ways for people to meet each other. So those are things that, have helped us, and I would say helped us, during this time, and helped us as a team and be better for each other and for our customers. But it's also helped in the hiring process too, because a lot of the people that have joined our company are through referrals. And this idea of this culture that we have, I think, has permeated throughout the organization. And, we had our first internal hire who's someone who came from our support team. And that's something, that I'm proud of. I want people to look at our team and saying, hey, that's a team I want to join. So again, I think, a long answer, but culture is so important during this time and anytime and in customer success, because you're not going to be able to create success for your customers unless you've got a really great experience and, feeling within the team. And it hasn't been all rosy, as well. I mean, it's been really tough on the team in terms of, as a fast growth company, but, we're open with each other and, we provide feedback to each other, and then we look for ways to improve.
This is amazing. Thank you, Chad. This is just by being who you are and being steeped in the world of customer success. This feels like a masterclass or like Cliff Notes on how to build a customer success organization and manage it well. So definitely
I've made many mistakes over the years, so I try and learn from those and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. I wanted to bring up a question that Klaus asked in the comments here. As you were talking about actually getting on the phone and watching customers use Kustomer, he was asking more like, do you think that they might behave differently knowing that you're watching? That's kind of the Heisenberg principle, maybe. And then he's asking about product data, and he mentions Pendo as an example, but that also then leads into a whole nother question, which is how do you think about product data? Do you use product data to inform your thinking?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'd say that maybe some of them behave differently. Sometimes you get all sorts of different personalities. Think about customer service agents. Some of them are brash and they want to kind of show off how good they are. And then, others are, maybe a little bit more tentative, but they typically don't know what we're actually looking for, because they're just doing their job and we're looking to see where they're clicking, because, ultimately we want everything in the customer interface. We want all the data, and they don't even know what what we're looking for and how, because they're just operating in their world as they've always operated it. So it usually doesn't really matter too much. And then in terms of product data, that is definitely has been a major initiative for me to centralize a lot of our data so that we can make better decision making. So, we had data over here and data over there, and a lot of our usage data was just in spreadsheets. And so, what I've done is had a very large project of pushing the other teams to provide that usage data to get into our customer success platform, to get our data from Kustomer with a K, which is our support platform, to get that into our customer success platform, to have our contract data into customer success platform, everything. And it's just starting to happen. We're getting more and more of that data. And then we're going to be able to do some more analysis, because we're strengthening our RevOps team so that we can start to look at that. And we have a health score now, and the health score is helpful, but with more data, we can, provide an even, more richer understanding of our customers and help them and determine when we need to come in, if we can trigger and send automated communication to them. So these are all the things that we're sort of working through. And, we have customers that are tiny, just a few seats, to thousands of seats. So, I'm dealing with a customer base that is wide and vast and different. And so, we have to determine what that experience is and how we best can serve them.
All right, thanks for that very elaborate answer. Just out of curiosity, though, what customer success platform do you use? You don't have to answer that, but I'm always so curious what people have in their tech stack.
Yeah, we use Strike Deck. Yeah, I'm more than happy to chat after questions on it.
That actually leads into one final question, because we're coming up to time. And again, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Chad. And we'll transition to Kumo Space in just a few minutes. One of the questions that came in as part of the RSVP process was, what's the right time to adopt a CS platform? Obviously, you're well positioned. You might have a bit of a sales angle as someone who works for a CS platform, but very curious to hear, do you think, so as an example, those folks who only have 3 seats, 4 seats, probably are not I'm sure that they're getting value from customer, but there must be a point at which it's like, okay, maybe this one customer that we had, this one organization was just not ready for our software yet. So at what point is the right time to start considering a platform instead of doing the work manually?
Yeah, I'd say that, there are things that you really want to figure out. So you want to figure out what is that customer journey. So even if you just map out an aspirational journey of what you want your CS team and all the different teams and all the different parts of the company, what you want them to do, I think that's a good starting point. Then you start to document your processes and starting to create playbooks around those various processes. And then I would say that a good idea is the actual usage data, because that's a key component. Bring that data together. You want to understand what some of that data is, and then have a sense of perhaps how you can use that data and how you're going to get that data. And so, for myself, it was pretty evident, like going back to that idea of strategic advisors. I don't think we could be a strategic advisor and be able to execute on what I'm calling strategic engagements without having this customer success platform, because what we were trying to do is say, okay, we want to do business reviews for these customers and have these goals, but it's hard to keep people accountable when you don't have a system that's built for you that will allow you to schedule those on an appropriate time period based on what your rules are and the customer journey, and then keeping people accountable to see how they're actually doing and are they performing those types of engagements that you want, and then measuring how that actually impacted renewal and growth. So, you get to a certain size and it's like, this is extremely important. And I would say another thing is that you probably want to have an operational person in place. So like an ops, like either someone from RevOps or your own CS ops before you get going down that path, because, it takes time to think through these processes, to build out that technology you want to implement. But from our end, like one of the things that I did is I built out the use cases, and I spent at least 6 months just working around the company and saying, we need this technology, here's why. And then building a case to get the engineering help to pull the data. Because if you don't have that in place, you can buy the technology, but you're not going to maximize the use of it. And I think that we did a pretty good job here internally, where we were able to hit the ground running because we had everything kind of lined up to make it a successful project.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Chad. I'm very excited to have had this opportunity to learn from you. Really appreciate it. I think I'll throw it back over to Theon to just introduce the Kumo space, drop the link again, and we'll transition over to the Kumo space platform.
Yes, Chad, thank you so much. So many great nuggets. And by the way, that BC comment before COVID, I'm going to be using it. I'll drop your name every single time so people know where it came from. Again, folks, thank you so much for joining us today with Success Corner. Again, the next portion is going to be our networking portion. That's going to be over in Kumo space. So I just drop the link again. Join me there. Peter is going to stay back a couple of minutes. So if you have any problems accessing the space, etc., feel free to ask some questions. But I will see you over there. Thank you so much for today, and I will see you in Kumo space.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.